Welcome back. We are still on 2021 State of the Nation, but most importantly, just how the economy has performed in 2021 as we look forward to 2022. So, Rufus, I want you also weigh in on this debt issue. First, I would like to know, Rufus, from you, is it out of control to the point that we cannot manage it? Because the CS was warning us about this debt issue, came in with a promise that I'm going to fix all the wrongdoings of the former CAS footage.
I think that the debt we are currently having is manageable. A lot of people tend to think or have this perspective that debt is bad, but debt is not really bad. It's very positive for an economy. It really helps us to leverage forwards and implement various projects that give us long-term benefits. On the other hand, there's a thin line between having good debt and sustainable debt. So we are currently flirting with that line of sustainable debt.
Yes.
And if it becomes sustainable, then we might go downhill very quick. So recently, I read the most recent monetary policy report from the Central Bank of Kenya. And,
yes.
To be honest, I did not believe it. There was no single mention of jobs. If we are not focusing on jobs, then what is the team really doing? Like, if you are running the monetary policy committee in a country and you're not focusing on jobs, then how do you measure the effectiveness of your policies?
Yes.
So we have a really big challenge with the monetary policy committee in Kenya. If they can't implement policies that are headed towards creating jobs, then without jobs, we will not be able to finance this debt. So I believe jobs is a big thing in this country. If we create jobs, then there will be higher production and our debt will remain within some sustainable levels. So another thing to look at is the night economy. We know it was hardly hit during the pandemic and the curfews that were implemented.
Yes.
So if you look at Nairobi right now, from past 10 p.m., there's a return of business that is going on in Nairobi and hopefully even in other parts of the country. So if we don't revive these jobs, create business and create production within the economy, then jobs could become, the debt will become unsustainable within a very short period of time, and things could go real bad. So we have a job short before anything else.
Pretty much. All right, now, gentlemen, I'd like us to move into the next area as well, the state of the economy. Let's focus on GDP as well. Now, I want us to go back to what has been the quarterly GDP growth rate, and we're going to go all the way back to 2017. And we're going back to 2017 because we do know that is when we didn't have the electioneering period within the country. Now, you can see, indeed, in 2017, the biggest growth rate that we saw was at 5.2%, but then we went back to 4.4 and then 4.5 and then rebounded in quarter 4 of 2017 to 5.1%. Fine. And then if you look at the coronavirus pandemic effect really on the economy as well, then you will see 2020, that's when we had contractions with the first quarter at 4.9. Then we went into the second quarter, a contraction of negative 5.4%. Is a big one really, before we closed 2020 at a general contraction of 0.3%. Abraham, question then being, what should we expect? We are still within the coronavirus pandemic. You will say, yes, we are rebounding. Good. We did see the 10% growth levels from quarter 2 all the way to quarter 3 of 2021. When we look at exactly the way it's been for the electioneering period, should we expect a lower growth rate?
It's so hard to tell, but it depends on what assumptions you want to make.
Yes.
If we can keep up our optimism about the elections going well, which I believe they will, then yes, we can at least have some consistency in the growth rate.
Yes.
Then there's the issue of Omicron or the Delta virus, whichever. I'm losing count of the names they're coming up with. But that will also have an effect, because and what is a bit worrying about this kind of factors, this one on oil, is that it brings something into the economy that that is external to us and which we have no control over.
Yes.
And negatively affects us. So we are hit, like when the petroleum prices went up, that inflation came here, whether we liked it or not. And you saw what happened. And to a point where the government now, right now, as we see it, is subsidizing the price of fuel for it to stabilize it,
yes.
even as we sit with you here.
Yes.
So those factors help. If that kicks in again, you'll see a nosedive. So to answer your question, it could go either way. To be honest with you, the high road is that all factors could be held positively, and we could have either maintain or at least increase it marginally. But if the factors go the other way, then
yes.
we could have a year similar to 2020 or worse.
Yes, yeah. Pretty much. Philip, let me then point to you as well. I mean, what is the political climate in the country right now? Because we do know we are deep within those campaigns, as much as some sites are saying, well, we are not even started our campaigns, we're inspecting projects around the country, because we do know we have not officially declared the official campaigning period. When you look at it, Philip, I mean, does everything point toward a peaceful electioneering period, especially at a time when the Building Bridges initiative failed?
Yeah, Collins is smiling because we've we've had this BBI conversation in the past. But the political climate that we have created for ourselves around election periods is it's just unhealthy, and there is no country that prospers, and we are talking about long-term prosperity when the politics is not right.
Yes.
And for us, I think we have managed to culture ourselves into believing that we must be confrontational before every election and after every election. But the dent that places on our economy and on the health of the country is very real. It's very deep. And I think we had the president, he has mentioned severally that we lose close to $1 trillion every election. It's just unfortunate that he has been part of what has contributed to us, being in that state. But the political climate we are in is not going to serve us any better,
yes.
Because we are already seeing, people mark timing, just waiting for the time to come for them to, whip up emotions in their backyards, and that will contribute to us, having, something close to what we've had in the last couple of election cycles. So yes, the political climate has a lot to do with the economy, because the economy functions in that political environment. Simba.
Pretty much. Collins, I want you to come in as well. You hear exactly what Philip is saying. Collins, when you look around, especially we do know the two sides that are the leading in terms of that 2022 general election, are there any telltale signs that, especially after the failure of BBI to materialize, that indeed the political climate in the country is, what we like to say, subdued, that we are not focused on the election, that the economy is going on, Collins?
The unfortunate thing about 2022 is that we'll be battling two things. One is COVID-19. COVID being a mutant virus,
yes,
means it keeps mutating.
Yes.
So we'll keep having new variants every new time. Today we are having Omicron. I don't know what we'll have next year. And so we really need to boost our health sector, so much so that even when we have a new variant coming,
yes,
it does not really send shocks into. We don't have to have conversations of closing the economy again. We don't have to revert back to such conversations. We vaccinate as much as possible, have the herd immunity, and so that next time we can withstand any variant that comes. The second one is the elections. And the sad thing about our elections is that it's not issue-based, it's tribal-based. So whether we had BBI or not, that would not have eroded that platform of having a tribal-based elections.
Yes.
We have tribal chiefs whipping emotions of their people, telling their people this is their time,
yes,
telling their people we risk being out of government if we don't do this. So it's more of people think they deserve it. it's more of people think this is our tribal thing. This should be our. We've been born with it. It should be ours. We should own it.
Yes, Collins, and I'm sorry to cut, Collins, and I'm sorry to cut you short there, but that's exactly what the BBI wanted to Kiwa as we look forward to a general election.
That was what was in the words.
Yes.
But we do not have practical solutions in the BBI to erode that tribal space.
Yes, Collins, would have it helped sort of change the sentiment as we head into an election?
No. What BBI was doing was increasing the positions of leadership and saying now, for instance, we would be saying Kikuyus are not going to be having a candidate for presidency. So we'll be saying we'll have a Kikuyu for prime minister, we'll have a Luo for presidency, and so we'll have these tribes opposing to these tribes that would ideally be fighting each other, being in the same camp, fighting against the others. We've not eroded that platform, and BBI was not going to erode that platform. Citizens, Kenyans, and the electorate have refused to erode that platform.
Yes.
And so it has to begin from the electorate. BBI is not going to do that. We are not going to have another manuscript going to do that. TGRC never did that. We have a lot of good proposals that are on paper, Waki report rather, that have been talking about moving from that tribal-based elections. But we are not there yet as a country. And so for me, in as much as I was a proponent of BBI, I don't think it was geared towards eroding that platform. And that is the most unfortunate thing that we're having an election. So we might be saying we hope 2022 is going to be a peaceful election, but we don't know because of that platform that we are having. You know, if it was issue-based, we'd be saying that the people who are pro this economic policy failed, these ones who are in this economic policy are gained entry. It will be a competition of ideas. It will be a competition of how we want to move the country forward. But we don't have that. We're having a competition of this tribe should be now giving this tribe to take the leadership, and we don't see tangible efforts which are geared towards improving the lives of the common Wananchi.
Yes, just Collins, I'll be coming back to you on that. Yes.
I'm happy with the transformation that has gone on with Collins.
Because I actually wanted you to weigh in on that before I bring in Tommy Randall. But Philip, I wanted to jump in as well because I know Tommy and Rufus would also want to weigh in on that. So. In fact, before I jump to you, Philip, so Collins, are you saying again that even as we go to 2022, it is still wait and see what happens, that we haven't moved away from, that we haven't set the stage for moving away from the wait and see approach? Collins, quickly, just before I jump to Philip, then I go to Rufus and Tommy.
Let me tell you something, Simba. You know, the elections that were disputed by the Supreme Court, it raised a lot of issues right from the people who are manning the elections, the IEBC.
Yes.
These issues have not been sorted. These issues have not been ironed out. We still have the same IEBC that the court indicted when they annulled the elections. We still have them in office. And you know, you see the kind of politics that Chebukati is now playing, that on one hand is in part of the multi-sectoral team that is overseeing the elections, the other hand is not part of it. For me, I want to tell Chebukati, one, that independence does not mean seclusion. You can be independent as a body, but you're part of a team that is overseeing the election. That does not talk about your independence. So for me, there are issues that we've not sorted as a country, and we've decided to move on. These issues are going to come back to us after the elections. We will see if elections go either way. We'll have people going to the Supreme Court. Either way the elections go. And people are using the BPI to test the mindset of the judiciary.
Yes.
Try and see how is this court going to rule. With the BPI, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
And so by the time we get to post-elections, people would have already had defenses on how they're going to whip up emotions of the people. And so I'm saying that space has not yet changed. We've not changed that platform yet. So the elections, we're going to still have the same copy and paste what we had in 2017, copy and paste what we had in 2013.
Pretty much. Philip, just quickly before I jump on to Tommy Wendo this morning. Philip, the wait and see, I mean, when you look at the politics that we're doing right now in 2021, let's call it for what it is, look at the campaigns that have already started in 2021. When you read into them, is there anything that compares to 2013, 2017, 2008? Would you compare and contrast, Philip?
I agree with Collins that there is nothing different, and that is unfortunate for us because we don't seem to learn any lessons from the past. And I think one of our problems as a country is collective fugue. If the warthogs were to speak, I think they would be laughing at us because we seem to have copied their behaviors. We make one step forward, and make 10 others backwards.
Yes.
That has been our problem over the years. Now, when you're talking about what is going on around this campaign period, because we are effectively in the campaign period, and just even before I talk about the campaign period, just touching on what Collins has mentioned, the IBC. The IBC has now been operating as an independent election day and boundaries commission. Yet they're supposed to be an independent electoral and boundaries commission. Because if you are doing everything just waiting for a particular day for you to show that you have prepared to deliver credible, fair elections, then you are failing in your job. There's a whole infrastructure, there's a whole system, there's a whole network that ought to be prepared or organized before you get to the election day.
Yes.
So IBC has failed to assure Kenyans or to give Kenyans faith in the system. And they are setting us up for what we saw in 2013, even beginning in 2007. Because when you have a system that has not been designed to deliver credible elections, that has not been designed to, deliver the voice of the people on the ballot, then you're likely to see what Collins has mentioned would happen next year. And so for me, Kenyans are experts at everything except electing good leaders. We are experts at, all these other things.
Yes.
But when it comes to electing people who would, push this country forward to, a path of prosperity, we seem to fail at it, and terribly so. So we will see. We will see what we have seen in 2013, what we saw in 2017, the kind of people who are going to get into office. And let me assure you, Simba, the people who are going to be elected in 2022, I sympathize with President Uhuru Kenyatta when he says he's not going to leave his government to a thief. But the thieves who are going to get into government in 2022 will outnumber those that have been there since independence, because they are going to begin right from MCA positions. They are lining up. And unfortunately, Kenyans are not going to see this. They are going to elect these thugs into office. So woe unto us if we make that decision next year.
Let me cross over to Tommy as well. Quickly, Philip, I'll be coming back to you as well. Tommy, I mean, when we look at the effect of the general election vis-a-vis the biggest threat that we've seen so far, the COVID-19 pandemic, I mean, Tommy, is there anything that we can say then when we have the COVID-19 pandemic and the politicking that is going on right now, should we say that we should expect the worst in a 2022? Because here's an economy that is uncertain because of the Omicron variant that is ravaging the economies across the world. And then there is Kenya with the general election. Is there anything that the BBI would have done, Tommy? Because the biggest headline, again, in 2021 was the failure for the BBI to materialize a document that was supposed to remove the emotions and the wait-and-see approach that has been affecting the economic growth.
Simba, I am a hopeless optimist. Even when my body is halfway inside the crocodile's mouth, I'm still optimistic. But during the last election, there are certain things we did not address.
Yes.
Instead of addressing those things, such as making the election more transparent,
yes,
we were talking about stories of Fungua Sava. So when you are able to create doubt about a winner of an election, then there's the possibility of rallying people up for violence. That is an issue we did not address. Instead, yes, we came with a whole new constitution. I mean, a whole new bunch of ideas on how to tweak the constitution, which I totally did not agree with.
Yes.
The fix was simple, and it had to do with the Election Act, and we'd never addressed that. Now, as far as COVID is concerned, I must say that I am impressed. When they had their party at Kasarani the other Friday, they were actually immunizing people there. That was a good first step, and they've been doing more. Like at Kencom bus stop, you get your shot there. So it's a drop in the bucket in terms of achieving herd immunity, but it's a step in the right direction. I don't always want to be negative about Muigai's administration.
Yes.
But as far as BBI and violence, I don't think that was a panacea to our problems.
Yes.
The problems have been mentioned in depth here by Collins and other panelists.
Pretty much. Then, Tommy Brendo, the question comes to you then. Are we still where we were back in 2013, 2017? Are we still there?
The potential for violence is there. We've not changed the way we vote. We're still tribal. A good idea from a Sabaot is a good idea.
Yes.
It's just a must, but we don't vote for good ideas. So the jury is out on this one. We'll have to revisit this in September. Oh, and then one more thing. From the way I understand the law,
yes,
they're not supposed to have campaigns until 6 months before the election. This would make it in February, and then they would do the party primaries, and then we would go into campaign. And then during that 6 months, you're free to leave government so you can campaign.
Yes.
But as you can see, when the handshake came, then there was a need for campaign to happen sooner. Whether it was legal or not, I'll leave that to you. That's my final point on that matter.
Pretty much. Tommy Wendo, I'll be coming back to you then from a policy perspective, because we do know now that the politics of economy that are getting thrown around, and Abraham will be very much delighted just to tell us exactly what bottom up and trickle down really means this morning. But Rufus, let me also weigh in on you the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic vis-a-vis the effect of the general election. Rufus, what should we be scared of more?
I think we should be more focused on the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
It's really tearing people, it's tearing the livelihoods, the businesses, and it's creating a lot of challenges that might take years to recover from.
Yes.
So if you look at the next year's general election, I believe there's a big shift happening. About 75% of the voters will be under 35. So this one will be mainly dominated by the youth. So if the youths are empowered and let's say they have jobs, they're trying to do better in their businesses, then we might see a very good turn of elections.
Yes.
But you know, the history in this country, we know that when people are employed, they are very easy to manipulate. Recently, so in the most recent rallies, political rallies, that you can literally put people in a bus, take them somewhere, and then achieve their political objectives. So if the economy rebounds well and the COVID-19 pandemic doesn't tear us apart,
yes,
and people have jobs, then we might see a much more empowered generation that will make the right decisions.
Yes.
But if that doesn't happen, then people might be a little bit desperate, especially the youth, and this way they will be easier to manipulate. So
yes,
I agree with Tommy Randall. If people are not empowered, then the potential for violence could happen next year. So
pretty
it's
much
a sad case, but let's hope there will be some good policies from the current administration.
Pretty much. All right, now let's then talk about it, because the slightest chance, Abraham, that we have at evolving from the politics of politics to politics of policies and economy is through the leaders that we put in power. But then, Abraham, what is bottom up and what is trickle down? And Abraham, what sort of economic model is Kenya running under right now, Abraham?
You see, in any election, everywhere
yes,
in the world,
yes,
you'll hear those kind of slogans. And most of the time, they don't mean much. They're just supposed to hype the emotions of the people.
Yes.
Personally, I would want to see somebody come up with a mock and tell us they're going to come in September. So that will be just end of quarter 1.
Yes.
So they'll run 3 quarters with the budget that will be passed in June.
Yes.
I would want them to, each of them to present to us a budget and say, this is how I will run government. Because we are only giving one side of the story. I'll give you so much money, I'll do this, I'll do this. But we are not addressing where this money will come from.
Yes.
This money can only come from 2 sources. Either you want to borrow more or you want to tax us more. So tell us in advance which one you're going to do.
Yes.
Otherwise, if we just go for the goodies, when the goodies start coming, then they'll ambush us with how they're going to get the money. That's number 1. Number 2, as a nation, I think you can hear the statistics. We are 70% below 35 years of age. But the sad part about it is that we've already contaminated this generation in that they are thinking the same way people of my generation are thinking.
Yes.
Tribal. And I think it's high time maybe we accepted that we are a tribal nation and we just accept it that way and move on. Because I think we're in denial. And we have been in denial for a long time.
Yes.
But you can see, towards the elections, we all remember where we come from, our ethnic orientation. And And I think what will eventually happen, I think, and this comes all the way from colonialism.
Yes.
Because it was a divide and rule, and that divide stayed on. So we need to have clear governance policies of bringing cohesion and serious cohesion, so that people see themselves as Kenyans first, and then from wherever you come from. But that cannot come overnight, and not with the kind of political dispensation that we have now, and the kind of hype and the kind of the time of it's our time kind of politics.
Yes.
Now, be that as it may, it's not a problem again you can cure tomorrow, but it's something that we need to have a long-term plan that, and we do it generation by generation.
Yes.
There's a generation that is maybe 60 to 100. Those ones we say they are here to stay. Let's just manage them until they go.
Yes.
Even me, my generation, 50 and above, even us, just manage. And after all, only 80% of Kenya is above 50 years. So they can wait for us to stay our time until we go away. Then it is these guys who are below 35. Guys who are below, after all, Kenya, half of Kenya is below 18. What if we start concentrating on this half that is below 18? And started even at curriculum level, at school level, try to change the way we think at school level. Because, you cannot legislate cohesion. You cannot. You cannot legislate ethos. You cannot legislate how somebody is going to behave. But what you can do, you can employ, you can come to them and show them that this is better than this.
Yes.
At a very early age.
Yes.
It forms into their ethos. By the time they get to 18, they're saying, I'm Kenyan. Yes, I know I'm from this region or I'm from this region, but I'm voting for this guy because he has policies.
Yes.
But right now we vote for people because they come from where we come from, in the hope that since it's our time, we will benefit, which is also not true. But again, as I'm telling you, for me, that is the only hope. We start with a generation that is very young and start coming up. As we manage these guys who are happier, my generation and above, we are contaminated. I think it's very hard to change the way we think. Maybe we just, so for now we are tribal.
Yes.
Let's manage our politics with that knowledge and let's stop the denial. But from the economic perspective, as we present whatever we are presenting, with whatever slogans we want to come up with,
yes,
let's tell us this is the goodie and this is how I'll finance it upfront.
Yes.
So that people know that, because if you tell people to do that, then these slogans will reduce.
Yes.
Because as it is, you have to tell us how will you increase revenue of KRA? Because as it is, there's no revenue to do those things you're talking about. Or do you want to borrow more? If you want to borrow more, how are you going to manage our debt?
Yes.
Those are the hard questions we need to ask. But again, these slogans will always carry the day. And again, we're not bored. Most likely we're not going to vote on issues. You see. So to summarize what I'm saying, the solution to our politics, I think, is long term. So as we get the long term solution, which is where our solution lies, let's manage the short term reality.
Pretty much. And Abraham, I'll be coming back to you on that, on exactly how we can sort of put to task these politicians to say, how then am I going to deliver this? And whether we need to introduce that. Now, Philip, let me cross over to you. The only chance then we have at this being an issue-based election, because 2022 is also going to prove whether we're going to be in the wait-and-see season, is if we start to see issues now in the politicians who are campaigning across the country. Philip, what is trickle-down politics? What is trickle-down economic approach model? And what is the bottom-up approach? Because that's the only slight chance we've seen majority of the members now start saying, but you see, this year we are talking about the economy as opposed to the politics of politics. Are we talking about the economy, Philip? And if we're talking about the economy, this current government by President Uhuru Kenyatta, they had a stellar manifesto. A stellar manifesto, Philip. But where is it?
First, let me just begin by swinging on the point that Abraham has made.
Yes.
First, I do not believe that we should just accept that we are an ethnocentric nation and move on.
Yes.
And just mentioning those who are 50 and above. If you look at the people who control the economy, you're looking at people in that age category.
Yes.
I mean, just look at the Mount Kenya Foundation. You do not have a young person in that foundation, and those are the people who appear to be pushing, to be saying who should become president.
Yes.
So yes, we have a value problem that must transcend, all those generations. And I think I personally owe it to my grandchildren to make sure that I will be leaving them a healthy country.
Yes.
But on the other bit, on whether we are actually discussing issues, it appears as though we are discussing the economy, but we are not. When you're talking about bottom-up economics, I mean, even the proponents of these scenarios cannot even tell us what they're talking about. Those who are talking about trickle-down, those who are talking about bottoms-up, they just found something that could sell to Kenyans. And that is the unfortunate bit about our politics, that a politician comes up and, there would be advice that for you to appeal to a certain category of these Kenyans, you must mention these things, whether they believe in those things or not. So we have an individual who is talking about the economy when they actually do not believe what they are saying. We have a group that is talking about a counter narrative when they do not believe any of those things they are saying. And I think the only person that I have seen talking about debt and restructuring our debt is a presidential candidate that most people are not talking about, and that is Ruben Kigame.
Yes.
I don't know how many people actually know that we have other presidential candidates aside from the two horses, and that we have gotten to a place where we are saying it's a two-horse race. Whether those horses are lame or not is also unfortunate. For me, I think it would be, if we're talking about issues, then we should be looking at these candidates also and identifying what issues they're standing on.
Yes.
And the other bit, as I finish on this, Simba, which is important, is this, that we should not just be looking at who is running for president and identifying the issues they run on or they're standing on. If we cannot identify what the MCA is going to do when he gets into office,
yes,
what the MCA is about, what the member of parliament is going to do, if we cannot identify as basic as that, then we cannot tell, we cannot pretend to identify with issues
yes,
on the national level when we are,
yes,
when we are assessing the president. If we go that direction, then we will be getting into what the Jubilee government put us in. They had a wonderful manifesto that had been drafted by people outside this country, and they sold that manifesto to us. We bought it, we took it in total, and see what it has gotten to us. We cannot even assess them according to their manifesto because it wasn't theirs in the first place. So we have very serious issues as a country.
Pretty much. All right, Collins, just quickly on that as well before we cross over to Tommy Rendo and Rufus. Collins, yes, you've said we have not moved away from 2013, 2017, 2008, we're still there. But then the slightest chance we have at saying that we are moving away from that is issue-based politics and especially the economy. Collins, do we have that going on right now? Trickle-down economic model and the bottom-up approach.
This is not a policy or issue-based campaign that you're having. Mentioning yes, trickle down and mentioning bottoms up has nothing to do with the economy. These are just catchphrases that are used to whip him. And it just shows how gullible we are as a country and as an electorate.
Yes.
Because in 2013, the dynamic duo, as they were dubbed then, Ruto, were saying they're going to improve the economy with, I don't know, 2 digits, something like that they kept mentioning. And they did nothing to that end. And I think this is the moment where we need to interrogate these people with a scorecard. And you look at someone, for instance, the deputy president who is running the bottom-up economic model and saying he's been in office as the principal advisor of the president. You know, there is no office, there's no position as the deputy president when you're going to vote. You're going to vote for the president. And so you see President Uhuru, and then next to him is Ruto. So you're voting jointly. They are voted jointly as a president. So they are carrying the vision of the presidency. So you cannot dissociate Ruto from the failures of the Uhuru government.
Yes.
So if you're going to engage these people and know what they're standing for, you have to have that scorecard. These people have been in office for the past 9 years. Where were you when how did you just wake up now that you realized you want to run for office and have this idea all of a sudden? You've been there. What have you done? You've been chairing IBEC, one of the most powerful organs of the government that is in charge of getting finances and funds down to the people. What have you done about it? Why didn't you have this model? Talk about the Prime Minister has been there for as long as I can remember. How was this trickle-down effect? You had the handshake with the president. Why didn't you have that moment to tell the president you can implement this thing and we see how it goes? I mean, these people have been there as far as we can remember. You've not seen them implementing any of these things. This is the problem of having consultants from Cambridge Analytica coming down to write for you speeches, and then you can run around and flash it to Kenyans. And this is the wrong thing. This is the worst thing about being poor and gullible, is that someone will come to you, go to Mama Mbogas and the hawkers down there, tell them that we are going to start getting money to you. We have county governments which are in charge of doing that. So if you tell Mama Mboga that you're going to get money to you, you're doing the same thing that has been happening. Come to talk about trickle-down. Trickle-down is getting money from the national government to county government down to the people. That's something that has been happening. Bottom-up is getting money from the people coming upwards. That's something that we are paying taxes that is going all the way up to the national government. I mean, if you look at it and you want to interrogate this bottom up or trickle down, you don't see substantive policy guidelines that are earmarked towards implementations of these catchphrases.
Yes.
Even the proponents of these things do not understand it. I mean, the other day, one of the members of that party was put task to explain the bottoms-up economic model, and she fumbled all away because they cannot understand what they are saying. And the citizens, the electorates, do not have that opportunity to interrogate and ask these people, what do you mean by this thing? What are the steps that you have in place to see to it that you put this thing into practice? I mean, these people need to be realistic. They are going to get into office when we are still battling with COVID-19. COVID-19 is not going to get over once we cross over the year. We have a lot of people who've lost their jobs. We have the problem of public wage bill. We have the problem of unemployment that has been with us. We have the problem of COVID-19 that has been with us. These people are going to get into government when they are not having their own budget policy. We are going to have a budget from the cabinet currently. They need to be practical and pragmatic on how they are going to steer this country, even the issue of debt, how they're going to steer this country to be able to get to a position maybe 2 years down the line and say, now from just 2 years down the line that we manage the economy, we can all talk about it.
Yes.
But you don't see that now.
Pretty much. Now, Tommy Raindo, I would like to sort of rephrase that question to you so that you can respond it on a different approach. Tommy, when we see manifestos by these political leaders who are campaigning right now and these promises, is there a way that maybe you can start saying that we need to task them on that delivery? Tommy, you and I have seen some of these politicians being put to task on TV to explain on exactly what they've done with their manifestos, and they do nothing, Tommy.
I'll give you a good example. Nairobi County, when they had the gubernatorial debate,
yes,
Miguna had an excellent manifesto. It was very well detailed, but knowing him, he's not popular, he's not an easy person to work with. But that would have been a good experiment, in my opinion. Now, as far as saying bottoms up, that's a phrase that's used in a bar, not in an economic textbook. At least trickle down has some basis in real life, because this is the concept that was used in the US, basically giving a tax break to the people who own the factors of production, so that they can reinvest their profits back into the economy.
Yes.
Also, as well as doing it to rich people as well, so they can reinvest. But that model working in Kenya, I'm not so sure. Some people will end up with taking their money to Panama instead of reinvesting it here. As far as how we hold them to task, the ballot is the best place. But now you know our consistency in voting in the wrong people.
Pretty much. All right, now, Tommy, then, so do you feel that this time around that indeed, to some little extent, Tommy, that at least we are talking about bottoms up, we are talking about trickle-down politics, as opposed to, well, it's gotta be me?
No, I feel a sense of voter apathy, especially with young people.
Yes.
That young people are between 18 and 35 who don't really understand economic theories, who maybe are not educated enough to probe further and can be easily swayed when it comes to voting, if they choose to even vote at all. But like I said, I'm an optimist.
Yes.
It's still early. Let's
Yes.
hope by the time the political menu is still not complete. It's like a restaurant trying out new things.
Yes.
As soon as they finish the primaries around March there, maybe somebody will have some solid policies then that we can actually interrogate.
Pretty much. Tommy Brenda, I'll be coming back to you on that, because then policy has been one of those lacking areas, even when it comes to running of the government. We're going to look at unemployment data, and I'm going to give you this statistic that 80% of job seekers in the cohort 24 to 25 have given up looking for work in the Kenyan economy. Quite outstanding. We'll be looking at that as well. Rufus, let's clear this part for a sense of politics of economics. Rufus, are we as a nation, when are we going to get to the point of the only thing we talk about is implementation of policies? Like we use that in our campaigns as opposed to politics, Rufus?
So I think right now we are currently suffering from the current generation of politicians that we have in the country.
Yes.
Because when you look at the policies and the kind of campaigns they are currently running, they're not based on real issues that are set to benefit the youth in the next 10, 20 years. They're mainly minding about the project that they might implement in the next 5 years that will benefit them and where they can simply channel money to their pockets. When it comes to trying to implement real solutions within the country, then our best chance is on the next election. If we can actually elect some good leaders based on their good manifestos that they will be passing around next year, then hopefully we will be moving in the right direction. But I know it's a very slight chance, but
yes.
I'm very optimistic, just like Tommy. But if you look at the real data in the streets, it's indicating otherwise.
Yes.
So we might be experiencing the same situation that we had in the last election, out of political sentiment about our people versus their people, and this might take us down a very wrong route. So I believe in the next couple of months, we'll be seeing a lot of voter sensitization. There'll be a lot of talk about the manifesto, the next set of policies to be implemented. Hopefully, this turns the majority of the voters in the right direction.
Pretty much. Abraham, once we come back from this tiny break, we are ending 2021 with the government or the country still operating with some of the economic measures that President Uhuru Kenyatta has or had put down just to cushion the economy from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. But then again, Abraham, we got to talk about inflation and one thing that is spiraling out of control, the Kenyan shilling against the dollar. What are we looking forward in 2022 and why haven't we seen the Central Bank of Kenya jump into the market just to correct the situation that the Kenya shilling is facing against the dollar? Once we come back here on a Business AM, we are closing 2021 and ushering in 2022.